Hello, everyone. Here we go. We are live and ready to go. I'm just going to wait till I see some people jumping on. And of course, I'm going to ask if you can hear me or see me. So I'll give you guys a couple of secs to get on and get started. And also, I might make sure that there's a link popped up in there. So hang tight. I'm just going to make sure everyone's on. Here we go. I can see you all coming on. So if you could give me a bit of, hi, Vicky. I was about to say, if you can give me a thumbs up to let me know that you can hear me or see me, but you're all jumping on to say so. So that's awesome. Hi, Ella. Vicky's there. Now, please, if you haven't gone through and popped in your name in the link, I would love it if you could do that because I really like to see your names there. So if you are on the live and you haven't gone through that link and popped your name in, you can always jump out and come back in again and do that. Hi, Kylie. Hi, Steph. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Di. Misha's there. I hope you're feeling better, Misha. It's so cool to see everyone jumping on. Awesome. Okay, so let me just go in and sort this out so we can get started. So before we get started, holy smokes, I have had the best day. It's been pretty epic and full on, but I've had the best day. So my daughter Maya has just started playing rep netball. So she's 12. It's actually her birthday today and she turned 12. And we spent the day up at a rep carnival. And so we got on the bus at 5 this morning and I coach her netball team. So we went up to Brisbane and they played 6 games and they had 7 rounds and we only just got back about an hour ago. So I've done the classic like slick the hair back. I had my rep carnival hat on all day, but it was just such a great time. They did really well and it's so lovely because I really enjoy coaching them and supporting them and encouraging them. So it's been an awesome day, but I'm ready to click in and talk to you guys about pain and have a look at that gut pain connection. Thank you, Lisa. I could have done with a shower, let's be honest, but you guys can't smell me, so it's all fine. I can just put on a bit of makeup and we're all good to go. Alrighty, so tonight we have another spot for our competition for winning a spot in our Confidence in the Kitchen cooking classes. So if you guys are only just catching up and you're only just getting onto the lives, each live we've been giving away a spot to our Confidence in the Kitchen cooking classes. So we're just drawing them at random for those who stay on for the whole live and also those who pop their comments up and who we can see is super active. So someone's written pick me there, which is awesome. I hope you get picked. I want everyone to do the cooking class. So please be in it to win it, which is very exciting. The other thing is Cara put up a great post before saying that she has gone on to take her spot for the Confidence in the Kitchen cooking classes for option 2, and she's had a bit of trouble opting in, and it's saying that it isn't available or the class is full. So we are madly behind the scenes trying to sort that out. So if you have gone on and tried to take your spot for the option 2, which is the cooking class with having your cultures and organizing some of our beautiful cultures. And if it hasn't been working for you, please email us at info@culturewellness.com and we can definitely do that manually for you. Otherwise, hold tight. And we're currently, Tex is trying to work on it behind the scenes to make sure it happens. So yes, the cooking classes are amazing. We just wrapped up filming on Thursday. It was so much fun, the last episode, wrapping it up. And it's all about how do you confidently cook and feed yourself and nourish yourself and stay in ketosis and look after your gut and have a diversity in your diet and not kind of be stuck in these myths of the ketogenic diet is bad for you and the ketogenic diet is poor, it's not going to be good for your gut microbiome or all of these sorts of things. So the cooking classes just, you go right through what pans do I use? What jars do I use? How do you measure ketosis? What are exogenous ketones? All the fun stuff. And my family's been very, very happy because we had apple pie on Thursday after we finished the cooking class. We had a chocolate-layered banana cheesecake. We had almond cups. We had all sorts. It was great. Yes, Kylie, I love the Christmas one too. So that's coming up. And also the Lunchbox series one's awesome. Okay, so everyone seems to be jumping on. So yes, Cara, try again so you can grab your spot. So tonight we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of pain. Super stoked about this one because, one of the key benefits of being in ketosis is that it modulates pain pathways. It down-regulates pain pathways. And so it's often used for like traumatic brain injuries. It's often used for chronic pain. And so it's not widely known. And of course, once again, there's all these misconceptions about it. And so I want to really unpack for you how this can be beneficial as opposed to taking pain medication. And I really want some more aha moments for you tonight. So first of all, I'd love you guys to write for me in the comments, what kind of pain are you dealing with? So I want to hear it all. So pop in all the types of pain we're dealing with, because do you know most people have debilitating pain that just goes on and on and on. So let me run through a list that I just collated. So most of them I had myself, that we see all the time. So endo pain, so endometriosis pain. There's the rheumatoid arthritis pain. There's headaches, stomach cramps, back pain, hip pain, tennis elbow, tight hamstrings, ankles, knees, fibromyalgia, pain in your gut. We see all sorts of different types of pain. Osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia, the headaches, frozen shoulder, the neck pain, burning sensation. Yeah, you guys have got it all going on there. So lots of migraines, knee pain, inflammation in the back around the kidney area. And someone's written, I've become used to that. There's MS pain, and stomach pain is a huge one. Wrist pain, diverticulitis, and abdominal pain. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm glad you guys are on here. You've all got something going on. Lots of chronic pain. So the next thing I want you to write here, so we're seeing arthritis in the hands, or someone said at age 34, arthritis. Okay, so the next thing that I want you to write is how long have you had that pain for? Was it 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it, 18? Someone's written there 18. No, they've been in the army for 18 years. Lisa's got lymphedema pain. That's very debilitating. So I'd love to know now if you start putting up for me how long. Oh, Lisa, forever. I'm sorry to hear that. So give me an indication of what you're dealing with here, because what we see in the Culture Wellness Clinic is most people have been in pain for well over 5 years. So it's not this kind of quick onset. So yes, and lots of you are saying that. So 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So we're seeing this real long-term chronic pain, and lots of it. And lots of the tummy pains, 12 years, 7 years. So it's horrible. And what I find really upsetting for everyone, which is why I love doing these workshops and I love talking to you guys, is that we get comfortable. We get used to having pain. We normalize being in pain, and we normalize how much medication that we take for this pain. And we're sort of given that indication, well, there's, it's just kind of, oh, well, you've just got like hormonal migraines. So, oh, well, it is what it is, just deal with it. Or you're getting old and you've just got, arthritic hands. So just get used to it and take the osteoarthritis medication, or, take the medication for period pain or endo pain. And it's such a common thing to take medication for pain. So common. And so, like when I was at my worst with being on pain medication, I was taking 4 to 6 Panadol a day and about 6 Nurofen a day. And some of you may also feel this. I could not leave the house and confidently go out without a strip of Panadol and a strip of Nurofen in my handbag. I was petrified of my pain. I was petrified that I'd be in a situation where I'd be completely non-functional, and I would take this stuff everywhere I went with me. So you guys might find that as well. And so let me know if this is something that you need to do. And it's horrible because, someone's just written their Panadol made me sick or makes me sick. And the same for me, like Panadol would make me sick, the Nurofen would make me sick, but the pain would make me sick too. So it's this really, horrible kind of insidious cycle. And so we've got to this point that we normalize pain. We've got to this point that we go to see a specialist, we get diagnosed with arthritis or fibromyalgia, or we get diagnosed with irritable bowel, we get diagnosed with Crohn's, colitis, we get diagnosed with all of these conditions and these labels and this dis-ease in our body, and we get diagnosed with that, and we are given more pain medication. So we're not given any tools, we're not given any other supports, we're not given any other help apart from medication that turns off the pain regulators or the pain receptors right at the end of that pain cycle, right at the end of that, as opposed to switching off the pain right at that sort of mitochondrial pathway, right at that sort of starting point, which we know is what ketosis can do. So lots of people saying, don't leave home without pain medication, always carry it in my handbag. My husband has so many Nurofen and Panadol tablets everywhere and spends a fortune on it. Yeah, so it's really common, and you're right, it's definitely not cheap. It's like having, buying a pack of cigarettes all the time. Like, it just chews up all of your money, and it's certainly not something that we want to get into. Now, the other thing about pain medication is the fact that it doesn't fix the problem. So we need to be curious as to why this is happening. And the other thing is that Panadol and Nurofen destroy your gut microbiome. There's no kind of there's no way of sugarcoating this, I'm sorry to say. Nurofen can strip your gut. It can inflame your gut. It can cause holes in your gut, so that intestinal permeability, that leaky gut. And it can, for some people, it can be so bad, it can cause blood in the stool, which is a classic sign that your gut is inflamed and not functioning properly. So we have this horrific kind of feedback loop where we feel pain, and a good chunk of how that happens is from our gut microbiome. So then we take Nurofen, but then that impacts our gut microbiome, which then causes more pain. So then we take more Nurofen, which causes more pain, and it's this horrible cycle. The other thing about Panadol is that it depletes that master antioxidant that I talked about in the first live, which is that glutathione. So every time you take Panadol, your bucket that should be full of glutathione, that master antioxidant that we love, that mops up those free radicals and does everything that we need to do, as soon as we take that Panadol, our beautiful bucket of glutathione just gets completely depleted. Therefore, we've got a lot of oxidative stress in our body. Therefore, we're finding that we have more free radicals. We've got more waste products. We feel terrible. We feel inflamed. We feel flat. We feel fatigued. And then we're in pain, and then we take more Panadol. So we've got to get off what I call the pain train of taking Nurofen and taking Panadol. And then, of course, steroids and all of these other pain modulating medications. They are making matters worse. The worst thing as well is it puts so much pressure on your liver. Your liver has to detoxify that pain medication. And some people, their livers just have genetic implications where they don't work as effectively. And so then that just makes matters worse. And so we've just got this horrific sort of, present day problem where we think that pain medication is the answer when in fact it's exacerbating the problem. So can you guys please give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm saying with regards to that, because I want you to really bed this down. I want you to get this. So put a thumbs up for me if you understand that pain medication will actually make matters worse. So we've got to start to reshape how we're addressing our pain. We've got to find new tools. Yes, so lots of you putting hands up. Good. I don't have a coach netball brain. You guys are getting what I'm putting down tonight, which is great. So don't worry. We don't need to be like, so I felt a lot of grief and guilt and all of these kinds of things around taking the pain medication. I knew no better. And so for you guys, what I really want you to take home and promise me that you'll take on tonight, I want you to be able to understand that you don't have other tools. You don't know any better. And so that's why we're here, to give you that give you that explanation. So don't beat yourself up about it. Don't worry. It is what it is. And let's move on and let's work out new tools to modulate the pain and new tools to be able to move forward in this space. And this is the cool stuff. This is where it's really cool, because the new tools and what you're going to learn not only just blocks pain or puts a Band-Aid over the situation, it actually just gets to the root cause of the problem. And that's the stuff that I love. That's the stuff that I'm really into. And it's not just about Panadol or Nurofen. I've seen people come off their steroid medication. I've seen people come off all sorts of medications when it comes to pain, autoimmune conditions, and so forth. So I want you to have hope. I want you to feel excited about this. And I want you to, feel the joy that is ahead for you to get off that pain train. So it's very, very, very exciting. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. I want to talk about the root causes of your pain. I want to get into this because it's something that we really need to bed down. So let's press pause, and I want you to sit and reflect. I'm going to give you 3 areas that your pain could be coming from. And as I describe it, I want you to write in the comments which one you think your pain's coming from. So listen up, because I think it's a really important that we start to place ourselves with where it's at. So the first thing is your pain coming from an underlying infection in your body and your immune system is just on? It's just turned on all the time. Your immune system hasn't turned off. So when you'll see a post come up in this Facebook group, and it's either gone up or it's going up tomorrow. I can't remember when it's going up. And I have a podcast called Culturing Curiosity. And of course it's called, culturing because I love my ferments. And it's also called Curiosity because I'm so curious about life, right? And in this podcast, I interview Rowena, and she is doing her PhD. Get this, listen up. She's doing her PhD on the ketogenic diet and chronic pain. It's so cool. It's so cool. So you've got to listen to that episode because it's just amazing when she talks about it. And I was listening back to that this morning when I was going up to the netball carnival. It was about an hour and a half drive up there and back. And I was listening to the podcast again. And when you listen to it, you'll hear Rowena talk about this amazing way of explaining that when our body is faced with a big stress, now whether it's a infection or we've broken our ankle or our shoulders been dislocated or something's happened, we've rolled our ankle, whatever, our immune system kicks in. It's an acute situation. And the immune system kicks in and does what it needs to do. Creates inflammation, creates pain, sends all of those cells, those inflammatory cells to the area to clean it up. And so it's like a car alarm. The car alarm's going off. It's just pulsing. It's going off. And when the car alarm is going off, we know I'm in pain. I need to action something. I need to ice it. I need to elevate it. I need to make sure that I'm looking after this chronic condition. But what happens when we have an infection? We have that chronic situation that happens, acute situation that happens. But then the immune system thinks and doesn't actually clear what happened. So the immune system doesn't actually get rid of it. And so every now and again, the car alarm just goes off. Like you've got those cars where just randomly the car's is sitting on its own in the street and it just suddenly goes off and no one's been near it. No one's doing anything close to it and the car alarm goes off. And that's what happens if your immune system remains disorganized and your immune system remains on high alert. And when your immune system's on high alert, but not the big car alarm to start with, but just every now and again it fires off, when that's happening, that's more that underlying chronic pain. And so the immune system is the root cause of the pain. So the immune system's firing, but there's nothing to fire at anymore. Like, what are you doing? There's no one trying to break into the car. Just stop it. And so that's number one. Is it that? The next thing is your chronic pain from a metabolic dysregulation within your body. Your blood glucose has gone up. Your insulin levels are all over the place. Your cortisol, therefore, is high. You're stressed. You're creating adrenaline. And then your body is triggering a pain response. So is it in fact from too many carbs, too much sugar, this metabolic state, from going into that pre-diabetic state? And is it because of this metabolic picture where your body is freaking out? Is it from that? Is it because your brain doesn't feel safe and your perception is that you're in pain, but actually you're not? Is your nervous system firing incorrectly? Was the pain actually a long time ago, but your brain doesn't feel safe because you're stressed and therefore the body's tense? It's on high alert. It can't rest. It can't settle. And so we're in this chronic pain state because our brain doesn't feel safe. Okay, so they're the top three. Let me go through that again. Are you an immune person with an underlying issue? Now, this could be glandular fever when you were 18. This could be Ross River virus. This could be a strep infection. This could be parasitic infection. Could be any of those things. Is it immune? Number two, are you finding that it's a metabolic dysregulation within your body with glucose levels through the roof. So you just could smash 10 donuts easily. You're constantly hungry. You're constantly, your heart rate's up, you're stressed, you've got the sweaty palms, you're pre-diabetic. Is it all of those sorts of things? Is it a metabolic dysregulation? Or is it that your brain is perceiving old stress or old pain, but it can't switch off? So let me pause for a minute. Okay, brain doesn't feel safe. Yes, brain definitely nerve related. Yeah. So Josie, I'm the 10 donuts person. That's why I say donuts all the time. So blood sugar dysregulation, glucose, arthritis gets worse. So some of you have got number 2. Kylie, you're on the brain train. Definitely me again. Metabolic, coming from underlying infections. So you guys are thinking, I love this. This is awesome. So we were saying that we're here to help people to get to the root cause. It's exactly right. Okay, so it's really interesting. So immunity, brain, EBV, UTIs. Yep, you guys are getting the picture here. I love this. So we want to make sure that we know what this is, because we know, therefore, which avenue that we need to take and how the ketogenic diet fits into it, and how, fermented foods fit into this, and all of the rest of it. Now, someone has written there, not sure. Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Is it number 3? And believe me, you can be all 3. I did a very good job of being all 3. So you can be all 3. You can just be 1. You can just be 2. You can just be 3. So yes, you can have all of them, but it's really important to kind of sit with it and work on that. If you don't know, if you're not sure, that's what we're here to help you with at Culture Wellness. That's what we're here to find out for you, whether it's through testing, whether it's through a complex health history, whether it's through your bloods, whether it's through, really working with you side by side to find these things out. So it's okay if you're not sure. That I just want you to kind of open your mind to being curious at this point in time. So let's get into the nitty gritty. I'm going to go through each of those ones. And of course, I'm going to bring up an awesome slide. Well, it's not really a slide because I'm not doing a PowerPoint, but I'm going to bring up a really, really awesome diagram. So let me just see which one I want to bring up. Let's go for this one. Okay, how cool is this? So get ready. I'm going to explain this to you. So some people said that you couldn't see my cursor the other night when I was pressing on the different areas of these diagrams. So I'm sorry if you can't see it. So I will explain it in case you can't see it. So we now know that our brain and our gut is biodirectional. They both go either way and they both impact each other. So it's not the brain down to the gut, and it's not the gut up to the brain. It's both ways. And so we know that what's happening in our brain can impact our gut. So when you get nervous, when you're about to speak, you get butterflies in your gut. So we know that that's the case. We know that if we've had chronic diarrhea, we just feel flat. We've got no energy, our moods are low, and we feel really, really, really down and depleted because we're not creating neurotransmitters for the brain. So this diagram's awesome. It shows that gut. So you can see that little long kind of roller coaster going on there, and that's our gut wall, our gut lining. And we want those tight junctions. We don't want that leaky gut happening. And we'll start from the left, and you can see on the left there, we've got our gut microbiota, which is all of those awesome organisms within our gut microbiome. So let me just break that down for you. Your gut microbiome is a collection of all of your gut microbiota. So the microbiota are the single organisms, and your gut microbiome is the whole picture of all those little organisms. And ideally, your gut microbiota is working for you. So we talked about that the other night. We want it to be producing energy. We want it to be producing neurotransmitters. We want it to be producing cytokines, which are those immune cells that turn off the switch. And we want it to be producing our nutrients, our B vitamins, and so forth. So this is a classic picture that you can see here. You've got the gut microbiota. You've got our beautiful gut lining there. And on the left there, it says metabolites. And they're all the short-chain fatty acids that produce energy. And they're all of the different metabolites that support our function in our body. And you can see it's going up to the brain. It's what we need. You can see the next one through there is that our gut microbiota creates those neurotransmitters that go up through that circulation and back up to the brain. And you can see that our immune cells are there. They're also going up and going into the brain. Now, that middle one there is the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve, you can see it's bidirectional. The blue line in the middle, it's going up and it's going down. The vagus nerve is our sensory nerve that is basically the barometer in our body to let us know, are we safe or are we not? And so if the brain or that vagus nerve goes down and senses that there's inflammation or senses that there's an infection in there, senses that there's leaky gut, or senses that there's too much glucose in your body, all of those sorts of things, it will then send a message up and down to the immune cells, to the enteric nervous system that lines the gut. And the vagus nerve will send the message back up to the brain. Things are not cool. Things are not good. Let's be stressed. Let's have a big trigger of an immune response. And then let's, not be able to digest our food and function effectively. So getting that vagus nerve to behave is so important. And then as you can see further on the right there, we've got that enteric nervous system along there. And that enteric nervous system is the system that basically communicates with our immune cells and communicates with our whole nervous system on how we perceive what's going on. And then as you can see how it goes over, we've got our spinal pathways, which is so important, and how we communicate with that brain stem through our spinal cord, and that nervous system response and how we perceive pain. And then we've also got our gut hormones. So that's how it should work. We should have awesome metabolites. We should have awesome neurotransmitters like tryptophan and serotonin and dopamine. Our immune cells should be anti-inflammatory, not pro-inflammatory. Our vagus nerve should be messaging the right things. And our nervous system should be giving us the right perception. And so, unfortunately, in an immune response, this just does not happen. So in an immune response, what generally happens is that gut wall is leaky and it's open. Pathogens from here, the microbiota down here. So someone put up parasites, someone put up viruses, Clostridium difficile was a massive one that I had. And so those inflammatory markers come through this leaky gut. They go through that lining. And then the immune cells see it as, well, I don't know what this is. I'm going to put the car alarm on. I'm going to produce a heap of pro-inflammatory cytokines and pro-inflammatory cells. Then the vagus nerve sends a message and says, no, nothing's good here. This is not safe. And then we start to see this absolute chain of events going on. So we can see that if the gut isn't working effectively, then our immune system gets onto that pain train, and then our brain perceives we're in pain and it's not safe. Okay, so Can you guys give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? So am I going okay here? Does that make sense? Because I really want to know if it all works out. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to show you is to go through this whole adrenal picture. So the other one that we talked about is that, awesome, you guys are putting the thumbs up. The other, I see it all the time, this adrenal response, this adrenal picture, often from a metabolic set point. So glucose is high, cravings are high, everything's, falling apart. So check this one out. This is so cool. I love this. Some of you may have heard of the Hpa axis before. And the Hpa axis is the hypothalamus, which is the top one in the brain. So can you see on this diagram, we've got the brain there, and the next little thing up there is the hypothalamus. And, okay, I'm glad you're getting it. So the hypothalamus is a part of the brain that registers perceived stress and communicates with the pituitary gland, which sits above our adrenals. And then the adrenals is what pumps out that cortisol. And then you can see underneath that, the brain sends messages of that into that sympathetic nervous system to produce adrenaline. So in this top section in the red, so red for alert, if our brain is stressed, if our brain is constantly fight or flight, freaking out, if our brain perceives that we're still in trauma, if our brain believes that, today's going to be the worst day ever, then that whole cascade that you can see there goes through the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, the adrenals. We're pumping out cortisol, we're pumping out adrenaline, and you can see how it then goes down and hits the immune cells in our gut and then sparks that inflammatory response from those immune cells. So we can start the problem up here too by our thoughts, and we can start the problem of that constant pain by not having a modulated nervous system. And that's certainly our hormones are busted. They're not working effectively. We're feeling really, really, really flat and fatigued. We're just pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. So when we're pumping out cortisol and adrenaline, guess what happens? We want carbs, we want sugar, and we just get metabolically stuck. So therefore, everything triggers up. When you've got adrenaline in your body and you've got cortisol in your body, you're holding on, you're freaking out. And so your body gets tight, your body gets sore, your body burns through magnesium and B vitamins and your zinc levels and your vitamin D, and your body just burns through all of your resources. And so if you're in this constant state, eventually your metabolism, like your metabolic set point, just falls apart and your hormones fall apart and your gut just completely goes downhill because those immune cells start to break down and cause issues in the gut. And so, we certainly want to be looking at our brain, but we want to be looking at our gut to make sure we can turn off that pain, kind of pinging on the pinball machine. So all of the ones in green there, this is a great diagram because it's like green is good and red is not. So it's pretty cool because you can see that the gut microbiota, which is right down the bottom, all the little microbes down on the far right-hand side, you can see that gut microbiota can see those arrows going out. The first one is that SCFA. That's your short chain fatty acids. That's where energy comes from. You can see the next one down is the word cytokines. Cytokines are either our pro-inflammatory cells, immune cells, or our anti-inflammatory immune cells. And so we want the cytokines that are green, that are the anti-inflammatory ones. So we're constantly turning off the car alarm. We're constantly turning off this inflammatory response. The next one down is tryptophan. And this is a really cool one because tryptophan's like how we make serotonin. And serotonin is, I feel happy, I feel joyful, like life is awesome. I'm so happy. And then the next one down is the other neurotransmitters, dopamine, for example, GABA, which is so important for putting the brakes on in your nervous system. So you can see here, your gut can be your friend, sending all those green, awesome pathways through to the brain and telling the brain, I feel awesome. This is so cool. But also your brain can send messages down with that Hpa axis, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals, the cortisol, the adrenaline, and it can really cause problems. I love it. Someone's written there, give me all the green, baby. Same. I just want all the green. Just give me the green. Although a couple of times today at the netball carnival, I reckon I was in the red because I was coaching. I'm like, come on, girls, just please do it for me. So, that's another really cool little diagram there that's, it's just perfect for getting that explanation. The other one that I've got here, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's just pulling it in, and you can see it as that bidirectional layer. So we'll pop these up and just pick one that works for how your brain loves to take energy on. So same thing, we've got the brain here. Now, this one's cool because it actually talks about this blood-brain barrier. And we need the blood-brain barrier. And we know that if we have a leaky gut, we will also have a leaky blood-brain barrier, which sits at the bottom of the brain stem here. And we know that if we've got immune cells that are firing up, if we've got waste products from the gut that aren't beneficial to us, we know they can leak through the gut, and we now know that they can leak through the brain and into the brain. So we've got a leaky brain and we've got a leaky gut. And so when we fix the gut, we need to be able to fix the brain as well. So I'm always thinking now about, how's my gut feeling today? Is my brain leaky? Is everything going okay? Am I producing my short chain fatty acids? Is my Hpa axis working? How's that vagus nerve going? And, you're constantly thinking about how your body is modulating and how it's working. Okay, so let me just come out of that. Someone said our body is incredible. I totally agree. And I'm glad you're loving the diagrams. That's awesome. It's just so nice to see it in action when we're quite disconnected with our bodies as well, which is very common when you're in pain, very disconnected from what's actually going on in your body. So it's really cool to see those diagrams to go, that's actually my body. That's what my body does on a daily basis. Okay, so the cool thing is that if we know that we've got an immune dysregulation, if we know that we've got a leaky gut, if we know that we've got a leaky blood-brain barrier, if we know that our vagus nerve is stuck, then we know how to move forward. And that's what I love most about this. I love that we've got now an understanding of how to move forward. So, of course, if you are in chronic pain, which is this long 25 years horrible grossness of pain, the first thing you do is get your gut tested. Is the first thing you do. Because if you're in pain, chances are your gut isn't working for you. You're releasing all of those inflammatory cells that are switching on the pain. So you really, really, really need to get your gut tested to understand what's going on in there, what's the inflammation, Why am I self-combusting, and how can I fix that? So the first thing is you want to get your gut tested so you can understand why. And then we can start breaking down these labels into, I just have fibro, into, okay, so I've got some small intestinal overgrowths. I've got quite a lot of inflammation in my gut, and therefore I need to address that and I need to balance that, versus I've got fibro and I just need to take pain medication for the rest of my life. So it's very, very, very cool. And when we have a look at our gut microbiome and we get it tested, then, it's really empowering because we have this targeted approach. We have an understanding of, okay, what herbs do I need to take? How do I need to address this? And we can move forward with that, which is cool. All right. So let me just check my notes for a minute. So we've gone through that, like those kind of hot hits of what's going on. So the next thing that I want to talk about is this sort of nerve center, this inflammatory response that our brain keeps telling us that we're in pain. Now, it's really interesting because it's very, very hard to express this really well. So I'll do my best to choose my words. I love words and I love language, so I'll do my best. Yes, someone has put SIBO there, which is basically just leaky gut and leaky brain. So we need to work on that. But, it's really interesting because you can get to a point, and I just, please put your thumbs up and let me know if this is you, but you kind of get to the point where you kind of always think that the pain is in your head, because how could you just not find answers, or how could you have this for so long? How do you, how are we keeping, how does this work? Like, why do I still have pain? And I just really want to be able to sort of step sideways and talk a little bit about when our body perceives a threat. If we don't feel safe, we will perceive the pain. And our body needs to be receiving information that it's safe and that it's calm and that everything is okay. And so if our body's not receiving information that it's safe and it's calm and it's okay and there's no stress and everything's fine, then it will activate, it will stimulate things, it will create pain to keep you on track. And so, yes, the pain is absolutely there, but it is the fact that it's actually our body and our brain that perceives the stress response. It perceives that something is going on, and therefore our nervous system becomes stimulated. All of our nerve endings, everything is stimulated. Now, I love this book called The Body Keeps the Score. It's one of my most favorite books, and every single person on the planet should read it. Absolutely should read it. And it's so cool because it talks about the fact that if we are in a trauma state, or if we've been in trauma, or if we've gone through a trauma, our brain is so amazing that we can actually stay in that state of trauma and not actually move past it, not actually get out of it. And our brain can still think that we are in that traumatic state. And so, in this book, he goes through how he has worked with, war veterans and people with PTSD and so forth. And they literally, their body is in a state as if they're still in the trauma. So the body doesn't know that the trauma was 20 years ago. The body doesn't know that the trauma was 2 years ago. And this doesn't have to be accident to the body. This is trauma as in, a dear loved one passed away, or you were bullied, or just, it doesn't have to be big overt trauma. For some people, it is when they're quite young and that, something's happened to them and it's put them in a state of alarm. So what I found fascinating with this book, which is why it's so important to look at every single aspect of why I'm in pain, is how, when they measured people's cortisol levels and measured their state of alarm and their car alarm, they were still measuring racing heart, sweaty palms, constant diarrhea, inflammation in the gut, neck ache, back pain, all of these things. They were still in that state, but the war was like 10 years ago. And so I just find it so fascinating. And then we need to really make sure that we're kind of delving into this space and we're having a look at it and we're understanding why. And then also looking back at, around that time of the trauma, did I catch something? Was that when I had glandular fever? And did that kind of trigger things off as well? And really go back and write those timelines and understand how this all pieced together. Why would the body do that? Very fascinating, but seems biologically not helpful. Well, actually, it's biologically extremely helpful. So our body has this inbuilt primitive mechanism, which is this state of fight or flight. So in our body, we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest mode within our nervous system. And that's where we just feel all cool, calm, and collected. No gut inflammation, no pain. We digest our food really well, and we're just all chilled out. And then we also have this other set point, which is fight or flight, this freeze state where our heart rate goes up. All of our blood goes to our extremities, our external muscles, to run away from the tiger, to run away from the stress, to run away from the fear of dying, because kind of back in primitive days, you could die very, very quickly if you didn't run away. And so our bodies needed that state of fight or flight in previous times because we were under threat from all sorts of things. We live very cushy lives now. We're not under threat that much from major life events. And so we need that. It's built in, it's primitive. But the problem is that for most people, an email can put us into that fight or flight state now because it stresses us out, or eating the wrong food can put us into that state of fight or flight. And so our body is very, very disorganized about being in fight or flight and being in rest and digest. So we're never going to turn off that pain and dampen that pain when we're in fight or flight, when we're stressed, when our body is elevated, when our heart rate's through the roof, when we still perceive that we're not safe. So we constantly need to be giving our brain information that it's safe, that it's okay, that we're not stressed, that we're going to be fine, that we're going to get well, that we're going to be okay. And as soon as we start giving our brain that information, and if we give it lots of that information, then it suddenly starts to go, oh, well, maybe we are okay. I'll turn the pain dial down. I'll stop trying to stimulate it so much. And so, like I have been in a really, really sort of big trauma situation. I was in the Boxing Day tsunami. I'm very lucky to be alive. But for many, many years after that, my body still felt like it was actually in the situation, in the wave, in the time that it happened. And so my body was switched on. It was elevated. It was in pain. And I didn't understand that coming out of that trauma state and coming out of being in the Boxing Day tsunami, I didn't understand that was where suddenly like back pain, neck pain, all of this, constant diarrhea and all of these issues were compounding on what was already causing, I was already having health issues, for goodness sakes. And then I was in this state of fight or flight. And, you read these books about people having flashbacks and people having, these big kind of moments that their brain tricks with them. And it certainly happened to me. Like, I actually, for, quite a long time after the tsunami, I actually, was reliving it visually. I couldn't go swimming in the ocean, and there was lots of things that I couldn't do for quite some time because I actually was, my mind and my eyes were playing tricks on me. I thought I was seeing certain things. I thought I was still seeing dead bodies floating in the ocean when I would go for a swim in the ocean. And so my brain would then, you are not safe. Get out of the ocean. Nothing's safe. The world is not safe. Let's just put some pain in your way to keep you alert, to keep you switched on, to keep you in that state of stress, because nothing is safe. And so obviously that situation for me was really extreme, like it's quite an extreme situation. But it doesn't matter if you lived through a tsunami and, clung on for dear life and got through it. The brain doesn't sort of see that any different than the passing of a loved one or a really traumatic divorce or those sorts of things. It's still big to us, and our brain still perceives it as stressful. And so we need to be able to help our body and our brain through that just as much as if it was a big trauma response of some big overt thing. So, don't play down your, what's happening for you or the trauma for you, or don't play these things down. We really still want to calm down that nervous system response. Okay, so you can see, sorry, I'm just checking my notes here. You can see this feedback. You can see how we can get stuck in this feedback loop and trigger this pain. And so the cool thing about using, diet and fermented foods and the ketogenic diet and understanding your gut microbiome, the cool thing is you can see how it starts to modulate the immune system, modulate your adrenals, help with your metabolic set point. And you can see by starting with the gut and your, ketogenic diet first as the foundational layer, it starts to have that cascade effect where we start to see, my immune system's working better. My hormones, they started working, thankfully. And, you can start to see, I just don't have those cravings anymore. I'm not sort of sweating continually. Like, I'm not having these big sort of issues popping up anymore. So you can start to see this cascade of effect. So we've got to start with the gut. I can't be any more clearer than that. So hopefully you guys have got how clear we need to be. So someone just popped up there before, how do I test my gut? So you can test your gut microbiome through Cultured Wellness, and we use a lab called Microbiota, and they will actually send the kit directly to you. And it's no more collecting, big lots of poo in a clear little tub. It's actually on a little brush, and you just brush a bit of stool onto the brush, put it back into the little tube, pop it back into the box and send it directly back to them. So you don't need to go to your doctor. You don't need to, drop in the big pot anywhere. It's very, very easy to do. And then, of course, we go through your test results with you, and we look, is there information? We look at all of those things. People have had their Microbiota test done before, which is great. So it's really important that you get your gut tested. And many of you who have heard me speak before will know that, my greatest aim is the fact that I would love our stool tests to be covered on Medicare each year. Even if we just got one a year to see what's going on with our gut, that would just be so wonderful. But we need to know. We need to get our gut tested. We need to know. So the girls will put up some information about testing. So, we do the testing, and then obviously you need a consult so we can go through that with you. And so we do that all through Microbiota. Now, the next thing is we've got to get that foundation right. We need to be able to love up our gut, and we need to work on dampening down the inflammation and switching on those beneficial microbes. Someone's put up my, I'm not quite sure who that is, but I reckon it's one of the culture wellness team, because I've put up my mantra of test, don't guess. Okay, alrighty. So when we're looking at sorting out the gut, we've got those foundational principles there that we teach in the culture wellness program, which you must learn. We must learn how to do this. So the first thing is fermented foods. They're absolutely non-negotiable in your life every single day. And specifically making ferments from the culture wellness cultures, because I have selected those strains specifically to rebuild your gut. So start making your yogurt, start making your kiffers, your sauerkrauts, the culture wellness diversity dough. But get the Guttalicious book, or get the the diversity dough book. Get all of these Nourishing with Diversity. Get these things and start fermenting. It's such a sort of no-brainer way of sorting out your gut microbiome. So fermented foods have the beneficial bacteria in there, and they go on and they communicate with your immune system. They communicate with your bacteria in your gut, and they turn off that inflammatory switch. It's so effective. It's so effective. We spend so much time going to see specialists and finding out about this answer, and was it this and was it that, and I need answers, I need help, I need all of these things, when all we need to do is start fermenting. Fermented foods are going to turn off the dial. So get started in fermenting. And obviously, if you are not sure how to do that, if you're nervous, if you need confidence, that's why we have the Confidence in the Kitchen cooking classes. I don't want you guys to have any barriers or any roadblocks when it comes to learning this stuff, because it's easy. It's just that we don't know how. We haven't been taught. So just upskill. Go and do the class, upskill on how to do these things so you can get fermenting. Okay, so let's have another look at foods that inflame us when it comes to pain, because there's this whole nightshade family. And, the nightshade family is something that really stimulates those pain receptors. And so if you're in chronic pain, the first thing you can do, like tomorrow or tonight, to get started, is to take out nightshades in your diet. And so nightshades are tomatoes, they're eggplant, it's potatoes, it's did I say tomatoes? They're the ones that are most kind of prevalent. And you can get a list, and maybe someone on the culture wellness team might be able to find the list. But the nightshades are really, really pro-inflammatory, and they will stimulate those pain receptors. And yes, so Josie, if you are addicted to tomatoes, then that tells you something about your body being in that feedback loop. So we often eat the things that we are intolerant to because it stimulates us. It switches on those adrenals. It switches on that big response. It puts us into that fight or flight. It sends messages of this sort of big adrenal response into our brain. And then we just want to eat that all the time. I mean, I was addicted to potato chips, right? Addicted. Then I could barely move, couldn't do a thing. And so, having potato chips all the time and then having like a spaghetti bolognese. Like, what a pain nightmare. So very, very, yes, capsicum is a nightshade. Very, very important to take those nightshades out whilst you are working out what is causing this, what's stimulating this. So nightshades is a really important one. So far, we're going to add fermented foods in, and we're going to take the nightshades out. The other things that we absolutely know, or someone said, you're addicted. Man, my potato chips addiction was real. It was bad. It was so bad. So, no, so fermenting will not actually support helping with the tomatoes affecting pain because of the nightshade compound in those tomatoes. It may turn it off a little bit and sort of downregulate the nightshade if you ferment it, but not enough. So, sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with your comments there as well. Okay, so we've got the nightshades out. The next thing is gluten. Can't have the gluten, people, if you're in pain. It's as simple as that. And there's no such thing as I'm sort of gluten-free. There's no such thing. You are either gluten-free or you're not. So gluten, if you have a leaky gut, the protein that is the gluten can take up to 6 months to stop. It can take up to 6 months for your body to stop reacting to that gluten in your body. So the gluten's gone, obviously you've eaten it and it's left the body 24 hours, 48 hours later, but your immune system and those antibodies are still stimulated from eating that gluten. And it can actually take up to 6 months for your body and your immune system to downregulate and get rid of it. So gluten is a non-negotiable. It is kryptonite and it is not worth it. When we have a leaky brain, there's some really cool research about undigested gluten in your gut that leaks into your bloodstream and then goes up and leaks into your brain, stimulates our brain like a morphine effect. It makes us feel like we've taken drugs. And it has that morphine effect that makes us just want more and more, and it taps into that sort of addiction loop. And so then suddenly we turn around and all we want to eat is gluten. And this is what we're seeing a lot with kids with needs and kids with labels, kids with ADHD, with dyslexia, and adults too. But these kids that are having white foods, they're having chips, they have just the bread rolls and the scrolls and all of those sorts of things, because they're actually getting a morphine, like this morphine hit, this stimulant hit, like they're on drugs from eating it. And so you'll see them go up because they feel awesome, because it's like they've taken drugs. And then when it wears off, they crash. And then it's back on. Give me the food. Give me the food. I'm going to have a tantrum if I don't have the food. And it's the same for adults as well. We can't have enough of it. Can't have enough of it. Sugar. Sugar, when you do an MRI of the brain, sugar stimulates the brain in those addictive receptors the same as cocaine. It's very, very cool. Follow Dr. Amen. I love his work. He's amazing. He's always doing like PET scans of the brain, of foods or stress or trauma situations. Or he actually just did a post on, unfortunately, the shootings that have happened in America. He's actually just done a post on the brain of someone that obviously has gone on that shooting rampage. It was fascinating. I've got to watch it again because it just kind of came up and I haven't had a chance to delve into it. And it looks at the brain of someone that is, that sad and that, sort of really out of whack with their body and their brain, and that puts, them into that state. Looks at that kind of brain versus a balanced brain of someone who feels joy. And so really, really interesting that he looks at a brain on sugar and what it does and how you can't make decisions. You're not working in that frontal lobe of executive function. You're all back here in the, kind of that big state of alarm. So sugar's out, gluten's out, and grains are out. So grains as well as gluten. So different types of grains like spelt, for example, pseudo grains, sometimes like couscous for people, are also a problem because they leak from the gut into the bloodstream, stimulate that immune response. Our pain receptors just trigger off, and then we're stuck in this feedback loop. So that's so cool. I only meant to watch half of this tonight, but I can't stop listening. That's so cool. So grains are out. If you're inflamed, then you need to pull the grains out for a while. We need to have a look at what's going on. Grains, sugar, gluten, undigested food, all these things trigger this big inflammatory response in the body. They cause this dysbiosis. They cause all this pathogenic issues. And so we need to be getting into a diet and getting into a lifestyle where we're incorporating all of these things, or taking them all out. We don't want to be stimulating our body all the time. Okay. So in the Culture Wellness program, so whether it's the Kickstarter program or the one-on-one program, the tailored program, we teach you exactly how to take out the grains, how to take out the nightshades, how to take out those stimulating inflammatory foods. We teach you, like, what the hell do I eat now? Because didn't you just take everything out of my diet and now I'm stuck with like the weird ferment foods that I don't even know how to make at the moment. And we also teach you how to be in ketosis. So then you can switch those pain receptors off to start with. And so you're kind of doing it from all angles. So we know that being in ketosis changes that landscape within our body. And then we know that if we stop eating the inflammatory foods, we're going to seal up that leaky gut. We're going to make those junctions in our gut nice and tight. We're going to start digesting our food. And then we're not going to see this leaking through the gut into our bloodstream where our immune system starts attaching and raising the alarm and freaking out and causing pain. And then our brain isn't perceiving that we're in pain all the time. So we've really, really, really got to get to the bottom of all of these things. We've got to explain, we've got to understand why this is happening and get to the bottom of it. Okay, so a few people have said, yes, it includes oats, it includes wheat, rice, corn, barley, all of those things, anything that's a grain. So we want to make sure that we're getting them out of our diet. So Suzanne has asked a great question. Where was it here? If your health is good and you feel well, is there any point in me adding ferments? Yes, absolutely. So I love that you're feeling good and I love that you feel your diet's perfect. That's great. That's where you want to get to. But ferments will always need to be a wonderful part of your diet, especially as we age. As we age, our digestive system gets slower. We don't make as much stomach acid. We don't make as much digestive enzymes. We find it harder with that motility and that gut function. And so that's where the fermented foods really, really step in because they provide that scaffolding. They provide that support that we need as we age. And so, ferments are always an important thing to have there. You've got the ferments in. Okay. Alrighty. Now, let me just go back and have a look here at some of your questions to make sure that I've covered everything. So Megan, that's a really important thing that we need to discuss, because yes, it's all fascinating, it's all cool, but there are lots of no's when it comes to foods that we need to have. There, we do need that. Someone else wrote it there as well, like a complete diet overhaul. We need to go in and really investigate what's going on. And it just seems really scary and overwhelming, but so is pain. And so is our life, that, we constantly feel like we're not being able to do anything and achieve our dreams. And so, you come to this kind of really, really hard sort of space in time where it's like, I actually have to do something about this. And it does on the outset seem hard, and there's so much going on, but and how am I going to do? And there's so many no's. But it's easy when you've got support, and we can coach you and we can explain it to you and we can guide you. Otherwise, it does feel really hard and really overwhelming. Okay. Lisa, great question. Alrighty, so Lisa's got a great question here about how do we eliminate the no foods while we still crave them? Willpower. Does willpower work? So no, willpower will never work. And it's not even fair to expect you guys to use willpower, because that's not okay. So one of the cool things that's worth talking about is that the ketogenic diet, when you are in ketosis, it turns off those cravings and it modulates and supports our glucose levels in our body, and also those cortisol levels, which spike our cravings, which spike our body, like we just want to eat and we just want to consume. And so when you go into ketosis, you instantly have less cravings because your blood glucose goes down. You have less cravings because it switches off those pathways for how we crave. And so you don't have to use willpower. You're actually using the power of ketones. You're reframing your metabolic state. And so then you can be like the other people that you look at and like, how can you just eat salad and you're fine? Like, don't you want to have 10 donuts and 4 packets of chips? Like, I used to look at people and they just have a nice little salad and some protein. And I just feel like, how do you do that? How are you satisfied with just that food? How can you just be satisfied with healthy food like that? I just couldn't get it. I couldn't understand it. But now going through that process and being on the other side, being in ketosis and not feeling hungry or the cravings or my blood glucose levels spiking through the roof, and my cortisol levels all over the place, and my gut being leaky, and so my nutrients are down, and so I just want to eat because I'm so deficient in B vitamins. You don't need to use willpower. The other thing is that's really important to make sure that we understand is that when you've got infections and pathogens in your gut, they drive and they talk to your brain about what foods they want to consume, especially things like candida, for example. So if you've got candida living in your small intestine or anywhere in your body, really, it will send messages to your brain, because you're the host, and it will send messages to your brain to eat carbs and to eat sugar. It's trying to survive. And so in conjunction with being in ketosis and dropping down, into that ketogenic state where you don't feel like you're craving food, in conjunction with that, we also add in medicinal herbs to bring down the pathogen level, so bring down that candida, for example, because that's a really one for sugar cravings. So we use the medicinal herbs to bring down the candida infection, and so then we're also not getting the cravings or getting those signals from the candida to eat the sugar as well. So it's like a two-prong effect. And so you're not craving it, but you're also reducing the root cause problem. So it's so cool. So you should never have to use willpower to be able to pop out the other side, as you guys are saying. So yeah, you don't fail. It's not hard. You're not going to start and then you're going to, find that you've just let yourself down and, I knew this wouldn't work. But it is tricky. It's really tricky. And when we work with people, sometimes it takes us 4 months just to get people on to a ketogenic diet that's going to support them. Sometimes it takes longer to get onto the medicinal herbs. So this is exactly, it's exactly what we need to teach you and guide you with, and not feel like you're failing or not feeling like you don't know what you're doing. Okay. I know, Lisa. Thank goodness we don't have to rely on willpower. Megan's got a question here. Kirsty, how often do you intentionally or accidentally come out of ketosis? What's normal to expect? Megan, that's such a great question. When I was really unwell and in a lot of pain and had significant gut problems, I stayed in ketosis really regularly and, in fact, almost full time for quite some time. And then as my metabolic set point changed, as my body became more metabolically flexible, as the pain went away, as my gut came back into balance again, as my blood markers started to come back into balance, I found that I could be out of ketosis more. And so I found that it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm out of ketosis and now my body's inflamed and I feel horrible, which is what used to happen. So now I'll be out of ketosis, a couple of times a week, or, most afternoons sometimes, or, I'll have quite a lot of carbs, for example, if I'm going to train, or if I'm doing a mountain bike race, or I'm going for a big run, or I'm doing something where my muscles need a bit more glucose. So it really depends for me on the activity that I'm doing. Depends how much I'm using my brain. So, this last week, chatting with you guys and doing lives and keeping up with family life and doing all our awesome discovery calls, I'm getting to meet so many of you guys. I'm using my brain a lot. And so I've been in ketosis pretty much all this week. So, I can coach netball and come back here and talk to you guys on a live, and wake up tomorrow morning. I've got my mountain bike riding Monday morning, all those kinds of things. So it depends what I'm requiring of my body, and it depends if I'm feeling inflamed and all those sorts of things. And it also depends on where I'm at. So after I had COVID, about a month or two ago, I was in ketosis a lot then, because I really wanted to turn off the pain, wanted my body to, really be able to deal with it, move on, switch off those, cytokines to make sure that my body was coping really well. So, it's different. And that's the cool thing about when you do a culture wellness program, you learn that. When should I be in ketosis? When should I be out of ketosis? How do I do it? All of those kinds of things. Okay, so I'm very conscious that I've held you guys up, and we're almost at an hour and a half of me rabbiting on about ketosis. Okay, so we will go through and answer your questions. It's getting a bit late, so bear with us. We'll probably answer them tomorrow, just when the team's all back on deck. We do try and practice what we preach, so we don't want to stay up late on big screens and so forth. So we'll get back to them tomorrow. It's been so cool. Elisa and I are having the time of our lives doing these discovery calls at the moment during this workshop time, meeting you all and really guiding you into which culture wellness program is right for you. So make sure you book a discovery call. It's so cool. I love them so much. I've got to meet the most amazing people this week. And it's been really exciting. People are, coming to work with myself or coming to work with Elisa. And please don't forget that, during this workshop time, we do have, our offers on, so gift voucher offers for working with me and gift voucher offers for working with Elisa. We've got offers for doing your gut test and also joining Confidence in the Kitchen. So there's lots and lots of ways we can help you and we can support you. So make sure you utilize this and make sure that, you utilize us and the team here so we can help you. So the discovery calls are going well. I am going to be back on here tomorrow at 1:30 doing a Q&A. So I'm not going to be bringing up any of my infamous graphics or diagrams. I'm literally going to be going through and answering your questions. So it's a good one to be on. If you can't be there, there's already a post up in the group asking what's your question, and we'll put it in there. And, the team and I, especially Candice and I, will go in and look at what are some themes, what are we seeing from questions that you guys are asking that I can answer. And then also there'll be lots of me doing this. You can see that the comments are down the side here because I'm always looking down the side. So that, I'll really want to just delve in and answer your questions, make sure that I can keep supporting you and helping you. So that's tomorrow. Now, for those of you who can't book a discovery call or you have booked a discovery call and I'm not seeing you for a little while, I'm also doing a programs live, which is all about the culture wellness program. So the nitty gritty. So, I don't want to talk about that in these lives. I want to give you, all the cool information. But the programs live, I literally take you through what do the modules look like? What do I teach? What's included? How do I join program? All of those kinds of things. So if you're wanting to still learn more about programs, then we've got the programs live coming up, which gives you all that, just like the core crux of the information. So, yeah, I think I've gone through everything. So thanks, everyone. I would love you to put up, once again, so I asked you at the start. Now I want to know at the end now, are you inflamed and are you in pain because of, number one, your immune system? Is it that your brain is perceiving pain and it doesn't feel safe and it feels under threat? Or is it your metabolic set point? Is it your hormones? Is it that cortisol, adrenals? Is it those things? So what's going on there? So I would love you to write there, and I'd love you to see, after you've listened to this live, after you've been through it all, are you 1, 2, or 3, or are you all of them? So I just love you to go back and reflect on it again and have a real think about it. We'll put the diagrams up so you can keep going through that and you can keep understanding it. But yeah, I want to see what you've learned. I want to see how you're reflecting on it and taking the most out of this talk. Awesome. I can see it all there. All right, guys, time to go to bed. So I will see you all tomorrow on the 1:30 live Q&A. And if not, it will be replayed. So don't worry about it. But thanks, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful sleep and we'll touch base soon. See ya.